بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Continuing inshallah the book of Sharh Maqasid, the book of Maqasid Al Sharia, and its Sharh by its author, or the book of Maqasid is by the author Sheikh Ibn Ashur. We have finished the part of Al-Masalih wal-Mafasid and the categories of Al-Masalih wal-Mafasid. And we said the Masalih and the Mafasid, or the category, comes on three main categories: Al-Daruriyat, Wal-Hajjiyat, Wal-Kamaliyat. Those we studied last time, and we saw, subhanAllah, the spirit of the Sharia, which is very important just to know that this element on which the Sharia is based and constructed, as we're studying here, this is to help us understand, but in the same time, help us to prove that the Sharia is universal, that the Sharia is Sharia that is for all, relevant for all time and space. As is based first on the common sense that we're going to explain it more, which is the fitrah, the inner disposition, the inner nature of every human being, and also based on everything that someone is aspiring to have in this life. He acquired to have things to help him lead to his peace, to his joy, to his happiness, and also to avoid the hurt, the harm. The whole Sharia is based on that. Then, by way of istiqra and analysis, our scholar, rahimahumullah ta'ala, they extracted not by specific evidence, by the whole spirit of the whole law of the Sharia, that you find that there's necessities upon which the whole society stands. Without these necessities, there will be a full chaos. I mean, life will not be possible in the condition when those necessities, indispensable necessities, are omitted or neglected or not existing. Those, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala relate on them ahkam to protect them. And then you have al-hajiyat, those needed element, aspect in the society to help the society live without hardship. Without it is going to be people going through extreme hardship. And there's a kamaliyat, where the state of ease that then the society can elevate itself to it when they can fulfill this element or this aspect in the society. We studied the main 5 necessities. Without them, the society will collapse. We said حفظ النفس, حفظ الدين, حفظ المال, حفظ العقل, وحفظ النسب, the protection of life, the protection of beliefs, the protection of the intellect, the protection of the progeny, and the protection of properties. And we saw, if you take any of these elements, that the Sharia based to anyone who violated extreme, punishment, and is being regarded as one of the most noxious things, as a big major sin. When it comes to the protection of life, the killing is one of the major sins. And as a matter of fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Who will kill one soul, he killed the whole humankind." The properties, stealing is one of the most noxious things. The intellect, the intoxicant, is one of the biggest major sins. So the intoxicant which is going to hurt and the intellect. The nasab, the progeny, we know that the adultery is one of the major sin. For the deen, the protection of the deen, we know the what is related to the apostasy is one of the major sin, and so on. The shirk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest sin and the biggest of the transgression, which goes against the protection of the beliefs and the authenticity of the soundness of the belief. And then comes the hajiyat and comes the al-kamaliyat. to see that the structure of the Sharia is not structured in a random way. It's structured into very, let's say, structured way, and with its wisdom, objective. And we said in the beginning, if you remember, the Sharia leads to fulfill three great elements into the whole Muslim nation: well-being, justice, and wisdom. So this is what the Sharia leads to. And every law of the Sharia is all beneficial for the believers. All the ahkam of the Sharia are ahkamun kulluha, just, wise, and beneficial. We're going to start the page 134. That's the chapter number 16. But we're talking about a summary of the chapter 15. Today we'll be starting on chapter 16, page 134. And again, inshallah, I will ask you to pay attention on the sharh, because it seems as been having some feedback. The way that the book is written and the language is kind of difficult, or the way it's structured. And I saw also that the translation from the original Arabic, is there some of paragraph are more summarized, and more than that, it doesn't have the part of the sharh that we are sharing with you. But this book is as a reference for the study that we do. So the chapter here that we're talking about is Umum al-Sharia. So how we get to the universality of the Islamic jurisprudence is based on the foundation or the principle of the extraction of building of the hukm, Now, please ask any question if you have any concern or any interrogation or things that are not clear. When I say building the hukm, is how to issue a law. Issuing a law in the Sharia of Islam, it refers to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But when we're talking about the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet, we understand that they have a foundation. The foundation is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As again, when we say the well-being that the jurisprudence is targeting for people to have, is foundation is the mercy. So every law of Allah has mercy in it, has justice in it, has wisdom in it. And when you see, like, we have them then in two categories: anything that help you, beneficial for the believer, for the humankind, that is part of the category that the Sharia is targeting. Anything that is harmful, hurtful, evil, bad, that the Sharia prohibit. And then we said, there's a category of evil, there's a category of bad, there's a category of harm, there's a category of things that are beneficial. That's why we come to explain them as the author and the scholars extracted after analysis of our Sharia. They said there's the layers, the first basic, the base, it is the necessities that we talk on, the five that I mentioned, and then the needed one that called them al-hajiyat, and then al-kamaliyat. The higher you go in the society, the better the condition of the society will be. In Islam, the regulator, for example, in the economic system, is the zakat, to regulate the distribution of the revenues, regulate the distribution of the income, to have most, fair distribution, so the needy person, the poor person, he will have an opportunity. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by putting the zakat as an obligation, had that the rich person to have in his hand, entrusted by obligation, to give the money of the poor. So that part of the zakat, we know that doesn't belong to the rich person, belong to the poor, but is in the hand of the rich. Therefore, the rich who seeking the pleasure of Allah, he goes out and he need to find the needy person to give him his own money. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال لكي لا تكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. So it will not be that the money and the income speculated around the class of the rich, and then you will be deepen the gap between the needy or the low, like the poor class, the poor people, and the rich one. And this is, subhanAllah, one of the elements of the impact of the regulation of the zakat. So this is, you see it in the intent of the way of the Sharia. So when we do such a thing, we know that the whole way of the Sharia is leading to balance, to equality. And this is all in the spirit of the Sharia, the way how we described it. The way how we describe it based on the masalih and based on the mafasid. Masalih and mafasid. Therefore, all the laws that issues, they are issued based on this understanding, based on this spirit. And we say based on the spirit, not the fact that the spirit of what we think is good, the spirit what is being taught to us to be good. Because sometimes there's people, they believe, they say this is so good, or this should not be done. They say should not be done based on whose opinion? Should not be done because the Sharia said it not be done, because the Prophet ﷺ said so. Therefore, in the way of belief as Muslim and believers, someone needs to regulate his understanding, his feeling, his emotion toward the law based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what have He said, the way of the laws. فيقول here in a conclusion in the chapter 15, by having this principle in the Islamic jurisprudence, and more details that we will not have the time to go through it, but just to mention it, to see how deep in the Islamic jurisprudence to take care of always acquiring the beneficial, the good to the people, and to push away, to avoid, to help them to be shielded from any harm, make the Sharia to be the jurisprudence which will be universal, relevant, have the characteristic of generality, of being realistic and everlasting, because it has the element of all the characteristic, the element of viability of all the characteristics that we mentioned. Among them is the universality, which is going to talk about it in the the next chapter, chapter 16. So we say universality. So the Sharia of Islam is universal for everyone. And the Sharia of Islam, founded on the Aqidah, one of the characteristics of the belief and the Islamic jurisprudence is al-umumu, as we mentioned here, which is, subhanallah, a general for every aspect of the life of a human being, in a vertical way and in the horizontal way. How say vertical way? It goes in all the moment of the life of the human being, from his childhood to his old age. The Sharia give him a solution and protect his rights. The Sharia even protect the right of a fetus in the womb of his mother for the inheritance. If his parents pass away, he will have his part of the inheritance protected even before he comes to this life, and protect his rights in all the aspects in the time of his life, and then forgive him the way of life in all these stages. This is in a vertical way. And in the horizontal way, it leads or gives the Sharia the solution and the way of life in every aspect of the life, in every action, and in every time, and in every society. That's the universality of the Sharia. And this is not be said because this jurisprudence is named Islamic. No, because of the principle set and the objective and the spirit of the law inside the Sharia. So we have evidences. It's not because, like someone said, oh, because I'm Muslim, so Islam is the greatest. No, we're talking about principle, about how the Sharia been constructed in a way to be relevant, viable for all the characteristics that we are talking about. قال معلوم, this is the beginning of chapter 16, معلوم بالضرورة من الدين أن شريعة الإسلام جاءت شريعة عامة داعية جميع البشر إلى اتباعها. This is known by obligation of being a Muslim. معلوم من الدين بالضرورة. There is knowledge in the Sharia that are required or obligated to be known by every Muslim. This is what we call معلوم بالضرورة من الدين. That the Islamic jurisprudence is a general and calling the whole humankind, because it is the seal of all the laws. Therefore, its universality is a necessity as a characteristic in this jurisprudence. Allah the most merciful, sending the last prophet and sending him a way of life that will be only viable and relevant for his generation. Therefore, the generation after the generation of the Prophet ﷺ, they will not have the element or the true way how they're going to implement this law. As Allah the most merciful and the Prophet ﷺ is the last of the messenger, therefore the jurisprudence, the way of life that Allah revealed on the Prophet ﷺ must be universal and will be relevant for all time and space. And it is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to his Prophet, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَّةً لِلنَّاسِ بَشِيرًا وَنَذِيرًا. We only sent you to the whole humankind, giving clear tidings and warning. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ جَمِيعًا. Say, O humankind, I am a messenger of Allah to you all. And in the hadith as-Sahih, the Prophet ﷺ said, I was being granted 5 favors. And among them, قال, and the messenger of God used to be sent specifically to his people, and Allah sent me to the whole humankind. Then when you say to the whole humankind, this is aspect to instruct us the characteristic of the universality of this deen. This deen is universal. So when we say is universal, one of the aspects that we're talking about, if there's anyone on the planet, if he will accept Islam, has to change all his inward, all his thoughts, or something that spontaneously fit his common sense in a very deliberate way, he will embrace it and help him to get to his ultimate objective, which is to be happy. That the Sharia offers such a thing. If it doesn't offer it, therefore it's not relevant and it's not universal. فعموم الشريعة معلوم للمسلمين بالضرورة. The universality of the Sharia is known obviously by every Muslim. So he said we don't need to go into detail of this characteristic. So he reminded us some of the chapter to understand or to see the element who make the Sharia to be universal. He said the first thing, that everything is founded, is based on something that the whole human being, they share, which is al-fitra, the inner nature. Because all the ahkam of the Sharia, it goes and flows with the inner nature. That's why we said the first thing that we were talking about, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, قَالَ فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. It's the inner nature, the natural disposition of human being. And the Prophet ﷺ said, every newborn is born on the fitrah. So all the law of the Sharia are based on the natural disposition of the human being. So subhanAllah is like an extension, is not like an opposition, is not a conflict. The Sharia doesn't come to say you have this desire that you have embedded in you, you have to neglect them, you have to kill them. No, the Sharia comes to the instinct of the human being and give you the guidance how to use them in the best that will help you to make you comfortable, peaceful, and make you to be someone who going to contribute in the well-being of this universe with that instinct that being given to you. Someone had the love of the money is instinct. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. It's a natural thing. I mean, when you come to the kids, you give them few bucks, he will be like running and happy. He's like he won the $1 million. It's a nature. They love money. And everybody does. But this love of the money embedded in the nature of the human being is something evil? It's not. It's actually embedded in the human nature to help construct life and society. If someone doesn't have that motivation to make money, everyone will be lazy. So you will find no one to invest and improve his skills. So he will make things to trade them to make a profit. Without that, you will not have society. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating human being in such condition, but He is cleansing and given the guidance of this love of the money. The love of the money to use it in the good cause. Not to put it in your heart so it will blind someone's heart to become the accumulation is the objective. Therefore, you're going to be spreading mischief. If the accumulation is the objective, it's going to be unjust, he's going to be cheating, he's going to be breaking his promises, he's going to be transgressor. He will not have any mercy on other people. He will be belittling others, etc. So all the mischief comes if that instant is being given the domination on the whole heart. So if the one who has this instinct, and all of us we have it, you direct it in the guidance of Allah. So you use the love of that money, not to dominate your heart, but to use it to motivate you. So when you have money, you're going to share it. You're going to give it to your family. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to pay the zakat. You're going to give sadaqah. You're only going to do the halal, because the haram thing, they're going to say, oh, if you sell intoxicant, you're going to make more profit. So the one who has that instinct of money, dominating him to be only thinking of the profit, he doesn't care if he will do the investment in the haram. Why? Because he has more profit, because what he loves is to maximize his profit. Therefore, he's going to be doing mischief, corrupting and spreading mischief. But the one who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that instinct is going to be regulated in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if it's haram, he doesn't care, because he doesn't care about the profit. Why? Because he fears Allah, so he will not gonna jump in the haram. He said, that's actually is going to destroy my barakah. This is haram and it's gonna cause the wrath of Allah. So I will be away from it because I know the rizq is from Allah. So he's going to invest it in the halal. And by investing in the halal, he's going to do good, not do corruption and mischief. And by when he has a profit, that the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I will put you more barakah in it when you pay your zakat, which is an obligation. If you give sadaqah, the sadaqah is not going to decrease your wealth, it's going to increase it. If you give sadaqah, it's going to help you cleanse your heart. So that instinct of loving the money with the guidance of Allah is going to be beneficial for that believer, for his family, and his impact of good on the whole community. Someone, the instinct of, attraction to the opposite gender. If you're going to have that to fulfill it in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him to have a household, and household, you're going to have this peace in this household. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to grant him children and grandchildren. So this will be like a great family, based on piety, etc. And he's going to enjoy that instinct that he has it. Both of them. But if you're going to pour it in haram, he's going to commit adultery, he's going to have, wal'iyadu billah, children comes from the haram, and he's going to see all that path of the corruption, and as you see it here in the society. So this is when we say the fitrah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala embedded in us desires, instant, but desires who are like they don't have a preference. The nafs doesn't choose a color. The nafs want to be satisfied. The nafs say like your nafs said, no, I want black or red. No, the nafs, it has an instinct, need to be satisfied. If you're satisfied with the way of the Sharia, Allah will bless you more. If you're satisfied with the way of evil, someone is causing himself to the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's, subhanallah, the fitrah. That's how the Sharia comes to cleanse the fitrah, to protect and maintain the innocence of the fitrah. And therefore we understand all the instinct that we have as being embedded in us to construct life. Because if someone doesn't have the attraction to that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created to us between couples, there they will not have the next generation. And anything that oppose such, reproduction to the next generation to protect the progeny is haram. Is haram. So the relation between the same sex and everything, those are haram because they are contradicting and conflicting the great purpose of constructing and continuing life as being vigilant on earth. So قال وصفا مشتركا ألا وهي الفطرة. So this is the first. This is one of the let's say aspects of proofs that prove for us that the Islam has this characteristic of universality, that all the ahkam based on that. So he's saying here قال حتى تكون أحكام الشريعة مقبولة, which is make that the law of the Sharia will be peacefully accepted by the people, the intellectual people, those who can understand the wisdom behind it. They will accept it with a peaceful nafs, an open chest, and they will follow it, and they will not stop because they know it makes common sense, they know it leads to good. وحتى يتسنى لأرفعهم قدرا في الفهم محاذاة نظائرها وتفريع فروعها. And those advance in understanding, they can extract from it a lot of wisdom, and this is where comes the necessity of the ijtihad to continue subhanallah extracting from the Sharia wisdom and also solution for the generation to come. قال وحتى يكون تلقي بقية طبقات الأمة الذين لم يبلغوا مستوى أهل الآراء الراجحة إياها تلقيا عن طيب نفس. And those even who do not have the quality or the level to get to understand all the or the wisdom of the Sharia, they will accept it very peacefully. They will accept it very peacefully. And you see, there's a lot of stories. I mean, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, see how the Ansar, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim, they accepted Islam. Just remind you the story of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. You know, when Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh wa Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, they heard about Mus'ab and his calling to Islam, they were, you know, very kind of upset how they can come here to change the religion of our ancestors. So when he came, Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, to talk to Mus'ab, he told him one thing. He told him, listen first what I'm going to say and then decide. He just was listening. Mus'ab, he said, radiyallahu ta'ala an, wa Sa'ad ibn Abi Zurara, he said, we saw Islam in his face. The more Mus'ab he's speaking and reciting Quran and relating the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, they saw, subhanallah, light in his face. As soon as Mus'ab stopped, subhanallah, he accepted Islam. He told them, I'm going to bring you one. If you'll accept Islam, all his tribe will accept. Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. When Sa'ad, he told them, come, he told them, you came with a different face. He smiled. He told them, you need to listen to this man. He just listened to him. He accepted Islam on the spot. Why? Because, subhanAllah, he just listen. When someone, he has already an idea in his mind that he hates any new idea, that people already, they are blind to this new idea because they didn't give it the opportunity. It's like even in math, you say, give me the opportunity, listen to me, then I will get you to my conclusion. The same thing in the da'wah. He said, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not going to force you, but this is the peace that we're calling for. Don't give it any denomination, or don't give it any claim or threat, or, you know, accuse it. Listen it from the source. And then, so this is, subhanAllah, as we're saying, this is the aspect who prove the universality of Islam. That, subhanAllah, as I always say, many of our brother and sister who revert to Islam, you ask them, you know, what is the cause first? What did you find in Islam? The majority that the people I met and I know, they say, it makes sense. What it means it makes sense? That's the fitrah. It makes sense with their inner self, their inner disposition. Why? Because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قال وإذ قد تعذر أن يكون الجائي بالشريعة جماعة من الرسل من جميع أجناس البشر أو قبائلهم إذ لا يستقيم الأمر في ذلك التعدد. Another thing he's saying here, one of the wisdom, this Sharia, to come with this message, the message is one message. So it will not be wise to send, like, you know, thousands of messengers for every tribe to teach them the same thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with the language that can contain the meaning that Allah wants to communicate to his servant, to his creation. Because someone, and this is one of the cause or the reason that the scholar they study, you say, why the Arab? Why the Arab nation? So he's saying, to see what is the wisdom to have the Arabic, the Quran in Arabic. First, Allahu a'lamu haythu yaj'alu risalata. Allah is the best to know where to put his message. Allah is the most merciful. If Allah chose the Arab, that goes with his attribute that he is the most merciful. Right? Because people, they say, why they didn't choose, you know, other nation, different language? They say he didn't choose it because Allah is the most merciful. So there's wisdom behind it who will help you to explain, to understand the mercy of Allah in choosing the Arab nations or the Arabs at the time to be those who are going to carry the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his language is Arab. But if the origin of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is pure Arab, he's not. His ancestor, his grandfather is Ibrahim. He wasn't an Arab. So the Prophet ﷺ came in an environment to speak the Arabic, to be the one who be going to receive the revelation, the Quran in Arabic. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He said in Surah Al-Rahman, قال الرحمن. What the first ayah after Al-Rahman? علم القرآن خلق الإنسان. So the teaching of the Quran came before the creation of man. So Allah has rahmah that He prepared the way of life before the creation of man. So if the way of life is ready in the knowledge of Allah, the one who going to convey it, he need to know the language of this revelation, which is the Arabic. So the scholar, they're telling us, قال إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لما كان عربيا كان بحكم الضرورة يتكلم بلسان العرب. So his native language was the Arabic. فلزم أن يكون المتلقون منه الشريعة بادئ ذي بدء عرب. So it's very obvious, the first people they're going to listen from him, they must be Arab. Because if the Prophet ﷺ traveled to the Romans and he talking to them with the Quran, nobody here would have even understand what he's saying. طيب. فالعرب هم حملة شريعة الإسلام إلى سائر المخاطبين بها. So the Arab are those who go to convey this message because of the language. واختارهم الله لهذه الأمانة. And Allah, He chose them for this amana, for this trust. Why? Because He's saying they have characteristic at that time none of the nation they have. First, before getting to this characteristic, قال, why the Arabic language? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال إن أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. We have sent it down, a revelation in the Arabic language that you may understand. So the understanding, the pondering comes when it is in Arabic language. If it was in another language, the pondering and the understanding will be lacking. Al-Arabiyyatu, which is mean from Araba, a vehicle. So the Arabic is already named after this meaning that is a vehicle of meanings. And the only language, because the Arabic doesn't belong to the Arabs, belongs to the humankind. All the language belongs to the humankind. And the Arabic, among the language that belongs to the humankind, is the only language that can contain the meaning of the revelation that Allah wants to convey to His creation. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed the Quran in another language, it will not fit His mercy and His greatness. If He wants to tell you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be careful, if you do such a thing, you're going to be punished. In different language, you might not get the full meaning. So the only language that can contain the meaning of the revelation to the humankind is the Arabic language. فَاقْتَضَتْ حِكْمَةُ اللَّهِ. Then Allah's wisdom and rahmah to shower with His blessing the whole humankind is to send the last message in the Arabic language. And the whole people in the whole earth, they acknowledge the eloquence of the language and the structure in the Quran, even those who do not understand it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenged everyone to reproduce like the Quran. And for 1500 years, none of the people as enemy or hatred to the revelation could have done such a thing. And Allah challenged them with, with one surah as short as Inna A'tainaka al-Kawthar. One line. Nobody could have done it or reproduced it. And this is, we'll study it inshallah in the class when we start the sciences of the Quran. So, I always give this example, if you have a bottle and you have milk, which is milk reflect the fitrah. You have a gallon of milk and you have a bottle that only contains 1 liter. If you're gonna pour it, then you're going to, the bottle is only gonna contain 1 liter. What you're gonna have with the rest of the gallon? You're going to be wasted. So you need a container, at least can contain the gallon to pour the whole milk in it. The revelation is the fitrah, is this guidance. The container is the language. The only language who can fit this meaning is the Arabic. So it's the rahmah of Allah for the whole humankind to have the Quran in Arabic. Then, what was specifying the Arab nation at that time? He's saying, قال وقد امتازوا من بين سائر الأمم باجتماع صفات أربعة. They have 4 characteristics, 4 attributes. Here I will tell you in which part he's talking about. It is page 135. He said, 4 characteristics that had never in history been combined in a single nation. These characteristics consist of fine minds, jawdatul adhan, strong memories, simplicity, and naturalness of civilization and legislation. قال جودة الأذهان. جودة الأذهان is, as he explained it here, قال fine minds and strong memories. The fine minds and strong memories are known among the Arab because are Badu, and the Badu, they have a fitrah that wasn't mixed with the different civilization, with different ideologies. They were for long generation disconnected from the rest of the world. So they are preserving that innocence of the inner nature. Very simple. Ala sariqa, spontaneous. So they have, subhanallah, things are still, innocent and raw. So, and they had known, because they do not write. Everything is by the mind. So you find simple people, it's like, shepherd. He can relate or recite to you poems of thousands of verses. And with such eloquence that is really mesmerized the people who knows the language. As a matter of fact, the biggest scholar of Nahu, of grammar, their evidence in the language is those Bedouin who live in the desert. When they see someone come into the city, they ask him a question. The way he answered, that's what they put in their books as evidence for the grammar that they have. Like Al-Imam Sibawayh, when you see their reference is those Arab. Why? Because ala sariqa. And that's why they have one of the tradition for the newborn to take them to the Badu. The Prophet ﷺ, he was taken to Bani Sa'ida. Why? To learn that innocence, that purity of the language, and that, subhanAllah, simplicity. When you say simplicity, it doesn't mean like ignorance. Simplicity, that everything they look at from like a first eye, first thing. So for example, we being desensitized, you see all this greatness around us from the sky, from the trees, but doesn't make anything for us. For them, look, for example, the saying of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, he said, when I travel and I look to the huge heaven, I know this is is being created by a God who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not by an idol put inside the Kaaba. So this is what we call Jawdatul Adhan, fine minds. Fine minds, which is like, subhanAllah, like a fertile land. And this fertile land, whatever seed you put in it, with the right rain, with the strong rain, it will give you great fruit. But if you have minds that been already, contaminated by philosophy, by ideology, by, fetishism, by superstition, by all these types, then it's going to have a mind corrupted, that you will have a strong effort first to correct it, so you can pour in it good. So this mind, I were already ready. Then he said, قال, the strongest memory, بساطة الحضارة والتشريع. Their civilization, it was very simple, primitive. And their laws, they are known. Their laws is laws of transgression, It's like a group of tribe, the other tribe, just invade them, attack them, take whatever they want. So it's very simple. If someone will do bad for them, they declare war. They don't have anything between. So they have very simple legislation. Simple, so extreme. Why? Because you don't have that, very elaborated legislation, so they can, deal or do things. So they were very simple. وَالْبُعْدِ عَنِ الْإِخْتِلَاطِ بِبَقِيَّةِ الْأُمَمِ. And they are far to be mixed with the different nation, like the Roman nation or the Persian empires and this. So they didn't have any of the ideology who might have changed their mind or have, things to influence them. So based on that, they were the right nation, the most fertile minds and, let's say, souls to receive the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he said, قال فهم بالوصف الأول أهل لفهم الدين وتلقيه, because they have this fine mind, so they are the most likely and they are the best candidate to understand the deen and to accept it. With the second characteristic, that they have a strong memory, so they are the best candidate to memorize, and they will not have confusion, because a strong memory help you to focus. When someone he has trouble of remembering, therefore all his effort will go through to remember what is being said. But when you remember strongly and quite good, you go to the next step, which is the analysis. قال وبالوصف الثالث أهل لسرعة التخلق به. As they have a simple and primitive civilization, it will help them to easily absorb and embrace the manners, the etiquette, and the moral of Islam. Why? Because they are the closest to the inner nature. ولم يكونوا على شريعة معتد بها. وبالوصف الرابع أهل لمعاشرة الأمم إذ لا حزازات بينهم. And with the fourth characteristic, they are disconnected, they don't have a true relation with other nations. So when they will have this new character, this new morality, they didn't have enmity, for example, with the Romans or Persians, so they will be more likely to establish diplomatic relationship and everything. Why? Because they didn't have already enmity, like, for example, between the Roman and the Persian that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Rum, how they've been in battles together, etc. No one has any concern about the Arab Peninsula to invade them or to colonize them, because they are not in their interests and they do not have any interest of them. So this, subhanallah, element, this characteristic, help us to understand, first, as I explained, about the Arabic language, second, about the Arabs who are ready, kind of like that fertile land, ready to receive the rain, which is the guidance, to give a great fruit. And you can see the examples. true examples. See the story of the great Umar radiallahu ta'ala, how he was in Jahiliyyah and how he changed. So those shepherds, they become really teacher and the greatest in the moral of the whole humankind from those who follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Read the story of Umar. Read the story Abu Bakr, mashallah. Read the story of Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. Read the story of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. Read the story of the companions of Allah Ta'ala. How they were. Read the story of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. How they were in the Jahili time and what Islam make out of them. They become the teacher and the guide of humankind. And that difference is Islam will make them. Read the story of the Ansar. In less than a year of teaching of the Quran by Mus'ab ibn Umayr, how they changed. Read the element or the items of the first oath, the bay'ah, in first al-Aqaba al-Ula, and read the item of the Aqaba Thaniya. Look the big difference between them. What changed them? What helped them to ascend and to transcend to such level of sacrifice? What made them? Is the Quran. And because they were ready to absorb it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah, قَالَ فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Whoever who wants to benefit with the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first he needs to cleanse himself from the background that he has. And that's why people sometimes take them long time, long journey of cleansing because they have a heavy background. Accepting Islam, it can happen in a second. But to come to the Iman is a journey of life. It depends on someone's, what he has already embedded in himself. Because there are things with the intellect, someone cannot see them. Takes time to realize them. After years, they said, yes, subhanAllah, this is not right. And you see them changing slowly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by choosing the Arab nation, they were in that primitive way. So as soon as they get Islam, they went up. Other people, when they get to Islam, it takes them a journey first to cleanse and realize, to come to the stage of the Iman, to the stage of the Iman. Do you have any question concerning that? So this is in page 135. No. Again?
I mean, all the civilization came from Islam. But what happened today?
Well, we have a nice subject yesterday, topic among the youth that we're going to, inshallah, continue it after Ramadan. I will urge, mashallah, everyone here to be a part of it, inshallah, of this discussion. It's named The Essence of the Islamic Civilization. What was the essence of the Islamic civilization? As we said it in a way, should someone will be weeping the loss of a glory or revive the essence to bring back the great civilization of Islam? What they had is what we are talking about. This is the Maqasid. This is the heart of the civilization. When they left this, everything gone. Very simple. When they left this, everything is gone. What makes the Ansar to be Ansar and Allah to compliment them in the Quran is their implementation of the teaching of the Quran. So the main element who helped them to reach and achieve such a great achievement in civilization, and also someone also will not be also deluded by the word of civilization, because they call for example, the Pharaoh civilization. The Pharaoh civilization was really civilization because you see this big monument, but it's based on slavery, on killing, on transgression of injustice. That's we call it civilization. First, also question mark about the definition of civilization. But when we're saying about the Islam, they have a very strong spiritual power. And then a very strong motivation to seek for knowledge. It's all embedded here in the Book of Allah. And then they have this openness, which is the Prophet ﷺ teaching us, every wisdom you find it is yours. You don't say, oh, this is from China, for example, the wisdom at that time, because they borrow a lot from China, from the Greek. We say, oh, this is not from us, we don't. No, as this wisdom is belong to the humankind, and you are humankind, you're going to use it to help and contribute in the well-being of the whole humankind. So those from the aspect who make this Islamic civilization. We lost this. How many people they read books today? How many people they are really close to the knowledge? How many students of knowledge we have? The spiritual power. How many Muslims are practicing their deen? How many Muslims they are fulfilling their trust? How many Muslims they are always looking forward to be truthful and better in truthfulness. So, inshallah. طيب, we'll stop here بإذن الله تعالى, and we'll continue. This subject is very important for the universality of the Islamic jurisprudence, because he's kind of summarizing what he had. And then we're going to go briefly, inshallah, about other elements who make the strength and the basics of the Islamic civilization. And all of it in the subject of the Maqasid, inshallah. And we'll finish this class, bi'idhnillah. There's the last part of the book is going to talk mainly about mu'amalat. We might not, I will leave you the choice, bi'idhnillah, to study it, because it's not going to be details that we want to study in this class. But we will, inshallah, have a matan who will summarize what we have studied, but inshallah, ahkam al-maqasid with other elements to be like more as rules. So we'll get out of understanding in depth al-maqasid, plus we will have, some rules for us to refer to be, inshallah, a reference for the maqasid. Inshallah, a few minutes, and we'll start the Al-Tuhfa Al-Iraqiyya, inshallah. Just, inshallah, Brother Ibrahim, before Brother Ibrahim give you the some of the announcement. Mashallah, you have the cupcakes. Jazallah khair who brought the cupcakes. And this is because this is the last class, not for the Mahad, but for before Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us rich Ramadan, shower you with His blessing, and inshallah help us to achieve the greatest objective in Ramadan, to reaffirm the oath with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to increase our piety, and to inshallah observe the qiyam and the siyam in Ramadan, imanan wa ihtisaban. Allahumma ameen ya rabbil alameen. Just one point, please, bear a little bit patience especially for the students of the first generation of the Mahad concerning the exams. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, and many of you, they know, subhanallah, it's not an excuse, But bear a little bit of patience, inshallah. We'll try to finish them as soon as we can. The thing is, that's why we're changing the whole way of the exam. So we want to give you as soon as we can the grades. MashaAllah, in the past exams, some of you students, MashaAllah, is like writing a book. And every question, MashaAllah. So it takes, MashaAllah, some time. And by way of trust, we cannot flip through the pages. So we have to read. And I would say, Alhamdulillah, that Allah grant you and grant us the way to work in the way of Allah in the da'wah. So there is no really time. But alhamdulillah, we were working on it. So please bear patience and our apologies to take all this time, because I know some of you, they've been talking to Brother Saeed and Brother Ibrahim, and always they come and said, I'm working on them. I have them actually in my briefcase all the time. So when I have time, I bring them out, and mashallah, sometimes, like, a packet like this, it takes time. So this is the thing. That's why we are changing the whole exams. Is going to be multiple choice, but it doesn't mean multiple choice that is like, either you do it randomly. If you do it randomly, you're not going to get anywhere. Multiple choice is going to be based on someone's understanding, inshallah. But it will be like already set from the beginning, so it will be very easy, inshallah, to answer, and then easy for us, as administration, to get you back your grades, faster. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. It's going to be open notes, but with on-site and with limited time. We're going to define how long it's going to be. And you come here, you take the exam, and at the end of the time, you give back your exam, inshallah. And it will be, inshallah, maybe 2 weeks or so, you can get back your grades, inshallah. But for the others, bear witness with us. We'll make a dua for you, inshallah. Inshallah. We'll guarantee that you passed already, inshallah. And if you didn't, we'll ask you to redo it, inshallah. Inshallah. Brother Ibrahim, do you have any?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think 50 questions is good, right?
We'll decide.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know there was someone was mentioning about multiple choice questions, true, false, and yeah.
Yeah, for the multiple choice question, as I said, it's not like, which one is like A, B, C, or all of the above. It's going to be something that you need to read it, reflect on it, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, we have assistant, our sister is helping. The maqasid, as you saw, so it's going to be like statement, small paragraph, 2 or 3, and you choose one of them based on the question, inshallah. So it's going to be like, for example, which one is the most, stronger opinion among these 3? So you need to have the evidence to decide which one is the stronger opinion, for example. Yes?
When you say open notes, what does that include?
Open notes, everything you have. But the thing is, it's not going to be like before. Before you have open notes and you take it home. This one, for example, if you're going to have 3 hours or 4 hours, so if someone is didn't study and he has the open notes, he might, spend the time, try to find the answer, and by finding the first answer, he has, for example, half an hour is gone. So the open notes, the objective is, because sometimes someone who forget, so we will not like, say it will be like hard to say, oh, if you forget, that's it. No, because when someone, for example, asks you a question in real life, instead of give me time, I will check. So I will check, in which page, right? So you have studied it. You don't remember it, but you have open notes, you study it. And that's, I will see, that's how it's fair, because, some opinion, they said, no, we said closed book. They said they would prefer to be open notes. Because if you studied, said, yes, I remember this is in chapter 4, and I remember I read it here. Yeah, this is here. So it's going to take you a few minutes. But to someone who didn't study, he's going to go through the book. I think he's here. No. Maybe, let's see here. No, we didn't get here. So after 3 questions, the time is gone. So open notes for everything, inshallah.
It's not Google Open, right? So like you cannot use your phone.
Jazakallah khair. Ibrahim, take notes. No Google. Because you can answer Mr. Google, he answer you. Yeah.
Otherwise, they're too smart, chat. I don't think they need open notes.
If you don't open notes, it's up to you. Yes. But your own notes, and no Wi-Fi. Inshallah.
If you don't open the notes, is that the extra point?
If you
don't open the notes, is that the extra point?
dua, extra dua. طيب inshallah. We'll have the Maghrib inshallah. We can pray Maghrib. MashaAllah. Okay, we can pray Maghrib at 9. So, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for your patience, especially our students of the first Mahad. So far, all the notes, exams I went through there, mashallah, very good. Some of them, they might need to be repeated, but inshallah, you have time. When it comes, by the way, an exam that someone was off, we don't put F. Should be, let's say, retaken. So if you see retaken, we redo the exam, inshallah. Because we are studying Sharia, this is da'wah. So there's no, and the effort should not be given an F for an effort. So I say it should be retaken because maybe someone, he missed, what he need to study or something like that, inshallah. طيب.